What is going on, everybody? The Rudy G Bets podcast series is back for UFC 290. We have one returning guest, one new guest. We have Andy Lang from wagertalk.com and Daniel Levy from Half the Battle. Welcome, guys. Glad to have you on.
Thank you for having me and us.
Absolutely. Hopefully, we don't have somebody like Melissa Gatto that will break my heart again this week. If you could, hopefully, if we have somebody that can get takedowns, they'll go for it this week, Rudy.
Yeah, that I was on her too, and that was Chris Lee and Sal Diamato strike again. That might have been the fifth time this year already. So it's like a once a month ordeal that I'm happen to be on the person. And,
One of my coworkers he's such a math nerd. He's gone back and he's mathematically figured out that there's about 1.2 bad decisions each card. And that if you're watching the event live and you haven't had the bad decision, it's coming.
So, that's terrifying.
Like, there is actually a mathematical formula to knowing if a bad decision is coming. So fascinating.
Yeah, that's terrifying. So let's hope for finishes then, especially so we're not sweating out too many of these. So with that, we'll get right into it. This card, obviously, as you guys well know, the money lines on some of these are off the wall. So it's definitely going to take some creativity because I don't know about you guys, but I'm not interested at Bo Nickel minus 2,500 or a lot of the other people. But like I said, we're going to do our best to navigate through, and maybe you guys could pick up a thing or two from us and try to get you some winners. So with that, we'll get right into it. First match, Esteban Ribovic minus 140 or thereabout, depending on your book, against Kamula Kirk plus 120 or thereabout. Daniel, any opinions on this fight? Anything you're eyeing up?
Nothing I'm eyeing. I mean, my opinions are basically, I think that the weight move to 155 pounds is a good thing for Kamula Kirk. Some of his issues is he tended to slow down late in fights. So I think maybe his cardio is going to be a little bit better here at 155 pounds. Plus, he's already a big guy. The issue is that, taking Ribovic at minus 200 versus taking him at minus 145 are two completely different bets. And after that big line move, now I think it's trending a little bit more towards a favorite or pass situation, whereas before it was definitely dog or pass. And while I could see parts of this fight being close, competitive, if it comes down to 1-1 going into the third round, who's got that dog? I think that's where Ribovic, he's proven that in his last fight with Loic, and we've seen like in the Kamula fight versus Billy Q, slow down badly in that third round. The fight with Souza on the regional scene, not enough urgency against a guy who's known for having not enough urgency. So all you had to do was outwork him by this much, and he couldn't do it. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Ribovic here.
Andy, how about you, man? Anything you're looking at for this or any opinions?
I think Daniel and I are on the same page in this one. Honestly, this is a fight I don't want to put any of my money on. It's just too close. If anything, maybe you look at an over in this one. I'm not sure anyone gets an early finish in this one. I love doing to start round two parlays. If you think a fight's going to go a little bit more, this one would be one that I would nominate for that. I agree with Daniel. Ribovic has the dog in him that Kirk just doesn't seem to have. Kirk seems to abandon his game plan, if he even has one, going into fights. It just doesn't seem like he goes in with a real detailed strategy. If he does, I don't know what it is. Ribovic, I like him. I like his skill set. I would really like to see him have a dominant victory here to really show, yes, I can take advantage and dominate a fighter that I really should. He should be the favorite. Minus 145, I think, is actually a pretty decent price on there. I just can't get to the window because I need to see him do some really, really impressive things in the UFC. It's, I think Daniel said is favorite or pass for me because there's no way I'm betting on Kirk. But if you do these to start round two parlays, I would look at this one. I think this one will make my card in that aspect. As for who wins, Ribovic, but I can't say it's a strong opinion.
Yeah, I'm going with Ribovic, but kind of like you guys are saying, definitely have no interest in betting this fight for a lot of the reasons you guys detailed already. It's kind of hard to trust either guy, and there are some things on the Kirk side in terms of reach advantage. He's got a 6-inch reach advantage according to the ESPN app. Switch against orthodox. His striking accuracy is about 10% higher. His takedown accuracy, subs. So there are some things on the Kirk side to like, but I just have no interest in a betting perspective from this one. So doesn't look like any of us are going to be able to tell you what to do with this one, but we have 13 more. So the next fight we have another one that I have a feeling we probably aren't going to have too many strong opinions on, but Shannon Ross taking on Jesus Aguilar. About the same odds, depending on the book you're looking at. Aguilar minus 140 or thereabout. Shannon Ross coming back plus 120. Andy, I'll start with you this time. Anything you're looking at in this one?
Shannon Ross stinks. That's my
Just
breakdown.
lay it out there.
Yeah, listen, Shannon Ross stinks. Listen, he made the card the last time because it was in Australia. Now we got another card with Volkanovski on it that Shannon Ross gets a fight. But I watched this guy lose on Contender Series to Vinicius Salvador, and honestly, I was on Salvador. He was an underdog, and I liked the skill set. That loss, I think, looks pretty bad now because Salvador just doesn't look very good in the UFC. And then he gets knocked out in 59 seconds to, Clydeson Rodriguez. I'm not a big Jesus Aguilar fan. I think he's way too small. There was this talk about like, oh man, he could do the hammer. Dana White said something like, oh, I didn't know he could finish like that. I was like, what are you talking about? That's kind of what he's done. Most of his fights, like at the lower level, have ended up finishing. So I don't think he's going to make it very far in the UFC, Aguilar. But if there is a chance for him to get a highlight win, this is it. Like if he does something spectacular, like bum rush the guy into the fence, take him down and get a highlight finish, Shannon Ross is your guy. So I think Aguilar is going to do it. I love his cardio. That is one thing I will say for him. His cardio, he's just a nonstop. Like he's going to keep coming all the time. It's Jesus Aguilar. There's no shot I'm betting on Shannon Ross. I don't think this goes the distance. And I like Jesus Aguilar kind of convincingly.
Dan, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, Shannon Ross has this uncanny ability to make average fighters look like world beaters. So by default, I'm going to go with Jesus Aguilar via guillotine. That's his signature move. And this is the exact kind of opponent that he can get it on. And then from a market perspective, similar to the Kirk fight, I mean, wasn't it like minus 200 Aguilar a few days ago? Now it's like minus 145 Aguilar. Those are two completely different bets. So props to the guys that beat the line. You consistently beat the line by that much on a regular basis, you will be on the right side of the coin. But now I think that, it's only minus 145 to fade Shannon Ross in a UFC fight. So I think it's a favored pass situation again.
Yeah, this is another one that I kind of think is one of the shit show fights of the card. A lot of these lower level ones are. And I agree with you guys too. I think it's Aguilar, leave it alone, but I would probably say leave it alone is the best way to go with this one. Really anything could happen in this one. I wouldn't be all that surprised. Hence why I said this is one of the shit show fights of the card. So my 2 cents is just sit back and watch the shit show, and if invest your money other spots on the card, and I think you'll probably be happy when this one's over, because this one has all the making of meme wars and all these other stupid low IQ level, or if it somehow does get to the distance, we could have a Chris Lee Sal Diamato special going on here, and I have no interest in getting involved with that. So that's my 2 cents for that one. So match number 12, we have Cameron Simon minus 550. The comeback on his opponent Terrence Mitchell plus 400. I'll start out this one here. I think you have to go with Simon easily. Do I want to bet him at minus 550? Probably not. But I think Simon inside the distance, Simon knockout are both good ways to look. A lot of these props, like I said, it's currently Wednesday night at the time of recording. So a lot of them aren't out yet, especially this being a last-minute replacement fight. Terrence Mitchell coming from Alaska FC, which the jokes kind of write themselves there. This one sort of reminds me of, I can't remember the guy's name, but he fought Jalen Turner maybe about a year ago, 2 years ago. And the line was way more competitive than this one. And Jalen Turner just went out and starched him. Terrence Mitchell, he was on the Contender Series. I think it was 2016, and he fought Kai Kara France and got dogged in like 30 seconds or something crazy like that. So I think Simon inside the distance is really the only way you could look in this one. Andy, how about you, man?
I'm going to surprise people. Not all of these big favorites are going to win on this card. So it's our job to try and figure out where are there some landmines. I have this one circled as I have some questions here about Cameron Simon. I don't question his cardio. I don't question his tenacity. I do question that he's got to stop poking people in the eye and doing some things like that.
Nut shots, yep.
Yeah. Here's my biggest concern with him. He's 22 years old, and I don't think he's grown into his man body. Terrence Mitchell's 33. Terrence Mitchell is big. Terrence Mitchell is probably going to be a little bit stronger. He's going to have the reach advantage. It's really hard to watch film on Terrence Mitchell because he fights in that Alaskan League, and they basically have a camera hanging above the ring on fisheye, and that's it. So you really can't tell a whole lot about him. And Simon, okay, he beat Manny Martinez, majority decision. Manny Martinez just went to a lower level league and lost. He beat Kozlo, which he needed a finish late in the fight. He got it, but that was a fight a fighter he should have rolled through, and it took him to round 3. I have this circled as a pretty big upset. I think this trips people up. I kind of like Terrence Mitchell to cause some problems, and if Mitchell is stronger and a little bit more powerful, and Cameron Simon is not able to overwhelm with his rushing forward, and he doesn't have the strength and power advantage on the ground, I think Terrence Mitchell can cause some problems. I'm leaving this out of my parlays. I kind of want nothing to do with this fight. Don't be surprised if Mitchell pulls the upset.
Okay, Dan, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, the issue with Cameron Simon and these, point deductions, these low blows, these eye pokes, is that it's not a one-time thing. There's a multiple time thing, and he could, win 2 rounds to 1, get 2 points deducted, and lose the fight. Imagine that. You put a minus 550 in your parlay. He wins clearly 2 rounds to 1, but since he got deducted 2 points, he loses 28-27. I mean, I don't know about you, but I would be so pissed off that, I wouldn't know what to say. Because like that Manny Martinez fight realistically should have been like a 30-26. And it wasn't a majority decision. One judge had it a draw.
Yeah, I think it was a majority, yeah.
And then the fight before that, I mean, granted, he finished the guy in the final round, but going into the scorecards, I mean, I think the guy won the first round or some shit. I don't remember. And then there was that point deduction. And I mean, Cameron clearly should have won the fight. He did win the fight, but I'm saying had it gone to the scorecards, in our eyes, he would have won, but you never know what could have happened there. So those are the kinds of things you got to be worried about. But he seems like a smart kid, so hopefully, he'll pick his weapons wisely. But as far as stylistically, I think that there's actually less of a chance of the fouls here because Mitchell is actually the bigger guy here. And oftentimes, it's the bigger guy that fouls the little guy. So here, I don't think the little guy is going to foul the big guy as much. So I don't think that's as much of an issue. And Mitchell, like you said, the Alaska scene, very bad. But it's not just the fact that he fought in the Alaska scene. It's that he fought in complete mismatches on the Alaska scene. He was 12-2 fighting guys that were 3-3. It's bro, come on. Now, granted, he handled all those guys accordingly. He also had a DQ loss, or DQ win, excuse me, in his last few fights, and I didn't get a chance to see it. So if one of y'all know, did he get finished in that fight? Because did he get knocked out and they called it a DQ? I don't know. But where I know him from is on the Ultimate Fighter when he, got knocked out in 30 seconds by France. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Simon here, but we'll see. Price sucks.
Yeah, the price definitely sucks, but like I said, I think there's going to be some ways you're just going to have to get around some of these if you like these guys. And I think in Cameron Simon's debut, I think, Andy, I had you on for that card, if I remember correctly. And he did what he needed to do. And there's been, obviously some hairiness to his fights with the fouls and wild scrambles, wild exchanges, things like that. But I think the kid is getting better every fight. And I think he's going to show it here. I think this is a good spot for him. And I think he finishes at a pretty high rate. So that's likely where I'm going. But we'll see what happens. That's what makes it fun. So another fight that I have absolutely no interest in, Vitor Petrino against Marcin Prachnio. Petrino about minus 280, Prachnio about plus 230. Dan, anything on this one?
Yeah, I mean, the line sucks. It's a massive market overcorrection. He was a pick 'em against the Pleasure Man. Now all of a sudden he's minus 300 against a more experienced UFC guy who's actually won fights inside the octagon. But I think Vitor is going to win via knockout, and minus 300 kind of reflects that. So no value. So pass.
Yeah, I'm with you there, man. The fight with Turkulage, the Pleasure Man, I mean, that fight was absolutely hysterical. I have no idea how that fight went the distance. There was just complete chaos for 3 rounds, and I think they just both got tired at the end, and somehow it carried to a decision. But I'm with Dan. I think if you want to play something on this fight, depending on the price, I might take a shot at Petrino knockout. But just from pure money line, I'm not trusting Prachnio even at over 2-1 dog, and I definitely don't want Petrino at almost a 3-1 favorite. So keep that one simple. Andy, anything you got?
Oh, the worry with Petrino is, does he have the gas tank? I thought his gas tank looked okay, not great. But Prachnio is going to have the advantage if it makes it to the third round. I think if it does make the third round, pencil in Prachnio to win that one. He's going to be faster on the feet. Petrino, I don't know, man. He carries around a lot of muscle, which can get you tired. And against the Pleasure Man, who holds his hands like this when he's striking defense, he just let himself get popped over and over and over again. They had some decent grappling exchanges, but Prachnow's not going to stand there and let Petrino tee off on him. So if I'm Prachniow, I'm probably trying to make Petrino work on the feet. I want to stay out of those clinches. I want to stay out of the grappling, because I think if you can make Petrino have to throw a lot of those punches with those big arms with all the muscles on it, I think Prachnio has an outside shot to make this fight a little bit interesting. As a live bettor, I would be really excited if Petrino had an amazing first round but didn't get the finish. Like if he's like, oh, I almost got the finish. I had him in ground and pound. Breath didn't call it. Prachnio survives, and then all of a sudden, round 2 starts, and you're like, "Wow, Petrino cannot throw punches like he could in the first round." So, I actually think this is a really good live betting opportunity. I would hope that Petrino tires. Prachnio looks better in the second round. On the judges' scorecard, he wins rounds 2 and 3. I'm not going to make any bets on this fight pre-fight, but I think this is a great live bet opportunity.
Yeah, I think if Prachnio doesn't die, that has a chance of coming through for you. So potentially not a bad look there. The next fight is 13-0 Tatsuro Taira minus 1,000 facing Edgar Chairez around plus 650 underdog. I think Taira gets a submission here. I don't know what that price is going to be. I'm assuming it's going to be, you're going to have to lay a lot of chalk. But just for a pick, I think Taira probably gets a submission. And where I see that happening is Taira obviously works on a lot of like trips and throws and things like that. He doesn't shoot his takedowns or get his takedowns like more traditional wrestling style. And Chairez, if you've seen some of his fights, he's pretty wild. He comes forward. And I think that's going to play into Taira's style of being able to get him in like body locks and trips and throws. And I don't see this one lasting too long. I think Taira round 1 submission. Frankly, I'd be kind of surprised at any other outcome in this one. But do I really want to bet that? Maybe small, depending on what the price is. But that's my pick. Andy, how about you, man?
Yeah, I don't really have a whole lot of follow up on that. I mean, Chairez, I didn't even think he was that good on his feet. I think each fight, Tyra's stand-up game has gotten better. Is he going to go out there and pummel somebody on the feet and win a stand-up game for 3 rounds? No, of course not. But it gets better each fight. Now it's a really good weapon to set up his takedowns. And Chirez, he gets popped on the feet. He's got decent strikes, but nothing that scares me at the UFC level. I think if you're looking at the higher favorites, obviously Bo Nichols in the stratosphere, all to himself at minus 25, 2,500. Tyra's
Mhm.
the one that I think he runs through Chirez. I don't think Chirez has anything in any area that scares Tetsuro Tyra. Tyra's not going to be scared of that guy's shots, especially if he can land jabs himself. Chirez is going to be on the back foot. Tyra's going to get on the ground, and once it gets to the ground, it's over. I mean, Tyra may not get the finish in the first round, but if he gets it on the ground, it's going to end there at the end of the round. So I don't see a path to victory for Tyra at all. I mean, you always say, "Oh, he slips on a banana peel and maybe he lands one huge shot," but I
Yeah.
just don't think I don't think he's got that in him. I don't think it happens against Tyra. I think he's completely overmatched, and I don't think it's gonna be that hard for Tyra to get on the ground and finish it.
Dan, how about you, man? Anything else to add on this one?
Tyra. I guess I'll say, I'm not sure if y'all knew, but I'm sure y'all do know. But in case anyone doesn't know, a few months back, like there was this big controversy where this guy choked this other guy out, and the guy was unconscious for like
Oh
over a
yeah, he
minute,
like ripped his arm off.
and
He
then
went to
like
sleep, and then
the
he
ref,
tried to like
so like
pull his arm off.
the ref still didn't stop it. The guy's unconscious for a while. So then after that, he's like, shit, all right, I'm gonna transition to armbar now. So he starts breaking this guy's lifeless like body,
Oh
and like
yeah.
that was actually Chires who did it to the guy. So
Mm-hmm.
in case anyone didn't know.
Yeah, I definitely didn't watch that live, but I think I saw it on like a Twitter clip or something like that, and
Don't
that
watch
went
it.
viral.
Don't watch it. It's
No, yeah,
horrific. Yeah, a guy ended up in the hospital. They deemed it extreme dislocation, not
oh
dislocation,
yeah,
extreme dislocation. Yeah, the guy was unconscious. He comes to fruition in an armbar with his elbow and shoulder out of socket. That's how he's awake. The announcers were screaming at the ref. They
yeah.
would call
I
Frank,
remember
it's
that.
over. Like, he's out. Oh, it's terrible. Yeah, Daniel, that was
Yeah, I remember that went viral on Twitter and seeing it, but yeah, that was pretty gross. Anyway, um, match number 9 on the card, we have Jimmy Crute minus 125, Lonzo Menefield plus 105. This is actually a rematch from the last time that went to a draw, if I remember correctly. It was kind of a crazy, wild fight. Menefield had some knockdowns. Crude had a lot of takedowns. It was a really tough one to score, so I think I was okay with it being a draw. Now you have Crute at minus 125. He's the younger guy. He has the wrestling upside. Not that Menefield's a slouch or anything like that in the wrestling department, but this one could go a lot of ways. I don't think I'm going to bet this one personally, but for the sake of us just picking every fight, I think I'm going to say that Menefield knocks him out this time around, or um, actually gets him out of there instead of Crute surviving a bunch of times again. So we'll see what happens. I'm just rooting for a fun fight on this one. Andy, how about you, man?
It's Crute in the wrestling game. It's Menefield with the striking. I'm stunned that over 2.5 rounds is plus 205. That will definitely that has my attention. I'm not really sure who finishes who. I guess Menefield can finish on the feet, but Crute is tough. Crute has said it. Has come out and said it like really up this fight up in terms of I have to win this fight. It's a rematch, so these guys are very familiar with each other. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of holes in these games. I'm not going to pick a winner in this one. I talked earlier about to start round 2. This is the number 1 fight for me to start round 2. I just don't see a finish in this one. I think these guys are very evenly matched. If Menefield gets Crute in trouble on the feet, Crute's going to shoot for that wrestling, and he's going to get the takedown. Crute's going to work for the wrestling and the takedown, and if Menefield's a really strong guy, he's not going to give up submissions. I like this one to go to the distance. I think we're getting a great price on the
Really?
over. Yes, absolutely.
You think they could repeat that?
Absolutely. They know each other so well.
I think there was 2 knockdowns from Menafield and 4 or 5 subtemps for Crew. I'm likely not going to have anything on this, but good luck to you. That would make me sweat.
Yeah, and by the way, can I just say, Menafield got a point taken away from the fence grab, and it was a bad fence grab. I've seen 100 worse fence grabs that do not get points taken away. Instead, you just have the ref yelling at the guy, "Hey, don't grab the fence," which does nothing. A little consistency with the fence grabs would be, or at least give the guy position. Like, if somebody grabs a fence and prevents a tip,
Yeah.
just put them on the ground or something. But I thought the point deduction was highly inconsistent with what I've seen, over the years with fence grabs.
Daniel, I know who you have because I saw on Twitter, but I'll ask you for everyone tuning in anyway. Who do you like on this one, man?
I'm going head to head with both of y'all. This is my first bet of the night. I got Jimmy the Brute Crute. This is a massive market overcorrection. This dude was minus 220 against Jamal Hill, the champion. This guy was minus 2 something against.
Is that the one
Alonzo.
where he snapped his leg, or am I thinking of another one?
No, that was against Anthony Smith.
That's right.
And he didn't
That's right.
snap his leg, but he kind of like tore his ACL or
Yeah.
something like that. But
I remember his leg like blew up. Yeah, something.
yeah.
But anyway, man.
He was minus 2 something against Alonzo the first time. And I mean, like, he landed takedowns every single round. First round, he landed 4 takedowns. And you got to consider this, like, the Jamal fight happened in late 2021. Crute takes all of 2022 off, comes back in this high pressure fight in Australia in 2023 when he hasn't fought in all of 2022, and takes this guy down 4 times in the first round. I can say this as a grappler myself. If you land that many takedowns on someone, you're going to gas out. So he basically dominated him for the first half of the first round. When they got back up to the feet, the guy was so gassed, he got dropped. But he showed he has that dog in him, got back in the fight, and I mean, took him down every single round. And I think when you talk about who's got to make more adjustments in the spot, right? I don't think that you can patch up a wrestling hole as fast as you can patch up maybe let's not engage in the striking as much. Maybe let's avoid it a little bit. Maybe let's exert a little bit less energy when we're on the mat trying to get, a first round finish in our hometown in Australia. Maybe let's like ride this guy out, for a full round, conserve our energy a little bit. And when that happens, that's where I think a finish can come, because I understand your point, Andy, about how these guys do know each other. I mean, why would I debate with you about that? That's like factual. However, what I will say is that no 2 fights are ever alike, especially in rematches, right? And I can give you plenty of examples where the first time they go the distance, the next time there's a finish.
The Fig and Moreno.
Shogun versus Machida. Shogun versus Dan Henderson. Pettis versus Benson Henderson. Pettis versus Cerrone. I can go. We can sit here all day with that. Point being, I expect this to be a different fight. And Alonzo, a little narrative, is not training with Fortis MMA under Coach Saif Saud. He's training with Pat Barry. So the good news for him is that his striking.
I might change my pick.
At least Pat Barry is like a decent kickboxer. So you saw Alonzo land 2 knockdowns last fight. So his hand's going to be sharp. But what's going to be the diminishing return in terms of having to patch up that wrestling? He's not a bad wrestler.
No,
Alonzo,
he's really not.
But Crute took him down 6 times, and a couple adjustments by Crute, he might be able to get a submission or find a way to exert less energy. But bottom line, that mixed with the market overcorrection, at the very least, I think Crute should be minus 150. So at minus 104, which I got a couple days ago, I just on principle had to play it. So let the cards fall where they may. I mean, I'm not delusional. I understand that every stand-up exchange, I'm going to be like, Jimmy, shoot, and all that. I get it. But at the end of the day, I think that there's a big path to victory on the mat, and I see him getting the win there. So I took Jimmy the Brute Crute.
Yeah, I think we'll find out very quickly who's going to win this fight. That's kind of my prediction. I think if you're seeing Menafield land heavy, Crute's in trouble, because I think it's going to take a lot for him to survive those again. And if Crute is getting his takedowns, working his wrestling without much trouble, I feel like that's probably where Crute's going to take over and win this fight. So really good fight. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's kind of going to be a car crash. once these guys get together. Might be a little feeling out process considering how wild and just all over the place that fight was. That could have ended, I guess, technically like 6 times in 3 rounds, but we'll see what happens there. Another one, match 8 here. We got Yasmin Yeragui minus 420 against Denise Gomez plus 320 dog. For this one, I'm going. My pick is Yeragui, but my bet would be Gomez plus 320. I think this line is actually really wide, and this is a potential, like Andy talked about, Cam Simon. This is one for me that I wouldn't even put Yasmin in a parlay or anything like that. This one has some red flags for me for a lot of reasons. I mean, both these girls are game. Both these girls will go for it. I actually saw that this was like plus 100 or plus 105 to not go the distance. I actually think that's a decent look. I think we might see a finish here. So that might be something I'm taking a look at. But like I said, the pick would be Yasmin. The bet would be Gomez. Am I going to get there with anything on this fight? Probably not, but we'll see what happens. Daniel, how about you, man? What are you thinking?
I mean, honestly, this might literally be the best fight that's flying under the radar for this entire card. Yasmin Yeragui, great prospect. And I mean, her debut against Lucindo, the only reason it didn't win fight of the night is because Nate Landwehr versus David Onamo is literally the next fight right after that, right? But these ladies lit up the arena, and then her next fight, she showed she's got that Mexican dog in her. She got dropped early, comes back, and she's a young prospect to look out for. I mean, only 23 years old, 24 years old. You're going to be seeing big leaps every single fight. And same with Denise Gome. I mean, man, that last fight, dude, like, people were talking about Bruna Brazil. Like, she was like, this next gen, like, Brazilian women's MMA, like the big time kicker and all this. Like, people were hyping her up. And Denise Gome put a beating on her in a way where we don't see that kind of violence in these women's lower weight classes like she displayed. So this is a fight I'm excited for. I expect these two to get after it. The pick is Yeragui, but I think you made a great point, Rudy. It's Gome or pass, and it's a pass for me because I don't want to bet against Yeragui, period, right now. And I just want to sit back and enjoy this fight because it's one I'm looking forward to.
Andy, how about you, man? Anything you're thinking?
Yeah, I write an article every week for UFC, and I said if this fight was on any other card, I think this would be a fight of the night candidate. It still could be, but I mean, this is a card that has Moreno and Pantoja on it, and Volk and Rodriguez on it. But I am with Daniel, and I'm so glad somebody else has pointed out how incredibly exciting this fight is going to be. So Yasmin has holes in her game that will be exposed if she doesn't fix them. Like Daniel said, she's 23. She leaves herself wide open on the feet, and it's because she's not been popped. She hasn't gotten really her lights, knocked out, but she just leaves herself open. But she's always been able to overcome it with her forward pressure and her just incredible natural power. Someone like Gomez can take advantage of that. Gomez has that one shot. I don't want to say like can completely knock Yasmin out, but can change the round. Like Yasmin come and just leaves herself open. Gomez has the power to touch her really good on the chin, and all of a sudden Yasmin's on the back foot and a little bit wobbled. I like Yasmin. I think she wins because I think her power, tenacity, ferociousness, and finishing ability eventually gets the job done. Don't be surprised if there's some very exciting moments where both women are just going at it, like toe to toe in the middle of the ring. I think Yasmin's going to get humbled at some point. I don't quite think this is the fight to do it in. She's got some holes in her game with some of the grappling issues if she fights somebody that can really take her down and work her on the feet, and she's got to fix that striking defense. But at 23, we see these fighters kind of like very very Michael Morales-esque, where I think we all like Michael Morales, but every time he fights and we get this big line at minus 250, we're betting that he's improving each fight. And it's kind of baked into the line. And I feel like this is baked into the line too, that we're going to see a next step for Yasmin. I like her to win. Gomez is absolutely the play. And I'm with Daniel 100% that this is one of those under the radar fights that I hope casual fans are watching, because they're going to be like, I didn't know two women could go toe to toe and fight, with this much athleticism and this much violence. I could not be more excited for this fight.
Yeah, that's why I was kind of shocked to see like around plus 100, plus 105 to not go the distance. I think that's a good look. That would be the way I'm getting involved, if anything, on this fight. But like you guys both detailed, should be a good one, and definitely one that's flying under the radar with all these big superstars on this card. So the next match we have Jack Della Maddalena minus 900, minus 1,000 in that vicinity. Short notice replacement Josiah Harrell plus 600 or thereabout. Andy knows. I mean, full disclosure, Jack Dell is my boy. I have been on him in, I think, every single UFC fight. He is a finisher. His boxing, in my opinion, is top 5 already in the UFC. It's phenomenal. He goes to the body. He doesn't go head hunting. And when he has you hurt, he closes the show. We all saw what he did to Randy Brown in his last fight. It took him, maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes to kind of get the range because he was at a severe reach disadvantage in that fight. And he finally started to corner Randy against the fence, landed that big haymaker, and Randy took a face plant into the canvas, and Jack got him with a rear naked no hooks in because whoever the ref was, I can't remember for the life of me, but he just kept beating on him. And for whatever reason, he wouldn't call it, even though Randy was, in the fetal position against the fence. And he slaps in a rear naked choke. Andy, I remember you were on my show, and Jack Della knockout was my best bet. So that was horrifying. But that being said, I mean, this kid is a killer. I don't think there's anything other you could do than just the knockout price is probably going to be, chalky, but maybe pair up Jack Della KO with someone else that you like and kind of call it a day. But the pick is Jack Della KO round 1. This kid's just way too good on the feet. He's explosive. He hits like an absolute truck, and he has really good patience for some guy with one hitter quitter power in him. He just doesn't go swinging wild. Like I said, he mixes his punches really well. And when he has guys cornered, he closes the show. So Jack Della here, he will not be your parlay buster, put it that way. Dan, what do you think of my man?
Yeah, I mean, listen, respect to Josiah Harrell, man. I mean, listen, he was on the verge of getting a call anyways. I mean, he's undefeated. He's been doing his thing. He's a wrestler, so maybe he gets a takedown here or whatnot. And we have seen Jack Della, in some compromising spots against Angel Luzon Contender Series in that arm triangle. Against Ramazan Ameev, he had a submission attempt, but Jack Della showed that he's got good submission defense. He can scramble back up to his feet, and from there, the guy's a marauder. He's got some of the most underrated striking in the welterweight division right now. He's one of the best prospects. He's proven that time and time again, and I think he proves it Saturday night. So, Jack Della.
Andy, what do you think, man? Jack Della Clinic, or is this on your upset alert list?
No, this is one that is not on the upset alert. I can't get there on Josiah Harrell. He's doing what he should do. UFC calls, gives you a shot on a card. This is one of those where if you come in and you at least put on a good show, everyone's going to remember it. He's going to get another fight with a full camp against somebody. UFC does this all the time. We know this. Josiah Harrell saves a Jack Maddalena fight. He's going to get another fight with a full camp against a guy that he can probably.
I agree.
Josiah Harrell's doing all the right things. He has nothing to lose. Absolutely nothing to lose. Everyone expects him to get rocked in the first round. So, all the pressure's on Maddalena. I just can't find too many holes in Maddalena's game. He keeps getting better and better every single fight. I loved what he did against Randy Brown. But to your point, Rudy, you were talking about taking the KO. I have stopped taking KO or submission. I just go inside the distance. I've lost a couple of those over the years where it's like, this guy should get the KO, and he knocks the guy out, and then all of a sudden jumps on and grabs the rear naked, and all of a sudden it's a submission. So I don't go with Maddalena knockout. I would go with Maddalena inside the distance. I'm willing to pay the extra juice for it. Shout out to Josiah Harrell for saving the fight. He's walking into the Lion's Den on this one.
Yeah, you know what this one reminds me of, and let's hope it's not as sweaty. Not that the fight was competitive whatsoever, but this reminds me a lot of. And my one buddy, we were golfing the other day. Shout out Tyler when you check this out. He was saying this reminds him a lot of when Chris Montino took on Sean O'Malley short notice, and everyone's like, "Oh, O'Malley's gonna dust him in the first 10 seconds." There was a KO boost on FanDuel and all that stuff for O'Malley, and there was 35 seconds left, and this guy was like a zombie. His face looked like he got ran over by a truck, and he just kept coming forward. And then Herb Dean, thank God, stopped it for whatever reason. He could have made another 30 seconds, I'm sure, but I don't think this one's gonna even get close to that point, but I did get a kick out of it, and it is kind of funny. Also, I think this is the guy that tackled the guy out of the cage, his opponent out of the cage, right? And I forget what promotion that was, LFA or something, maybe.
It was LFA. Yeah.
It was LFA.
Made it on
Okay.
SportsCenter.
So yeah,
because they couldn't latch the door properly. It wasn't like he did something awesome.
Yeah.
It was like a cool moment that he, ran through the.
Yeah, so I guess the pick is Harold by tackling out of the cage. So plus 1350. I think I'm going to take a shot on that one. But yeah, this should be Dell all day. Like I think all of the guys detailed for you all pretty easily. The next fight here, Robbie Lawler. Now, is this confirmed his retirement fight, or is this just like speculation? It's confirmed. Okay.
Like he's getting inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, and
I did know that. I just because I think it was because probably I saw a lot of memes and stuff like that. So, but that being said, Nico Price minus 270, Lawler plus 220 dog here. And I know it's an easy thing to say. I know it's the easy way out here, but I have to go with Nico Price inside the distance on this one. It's probably going to be a knockout, but there is a chance that maybe he latches on a submission or something. But I think the pick here is Nico Price. Do I have interest in minus 270? I really don't, because I don't think this one's going the distance anyway. And I think you have to play or at least make a pick that Price finishes it. I mean, there's a lot to say about Nico Price, and he's not really defensively responsible, and maybe the gas tank's not all that great, and he leaves himself open, and he hasn't really been winning fights lately and stuff. But at the same time, like, it's fucking Robbie Lawler. Like, the guy, in my opinion, looked horrendous even when he beat Nick Diaz. I mean, that was just like two old men, like in a nursing home, swinging for the fences like 4 miles an hour. And, I there's nothing I took from that fight other than Robbie Lawler is shot. And then, I mean, getting finished against the fence by Brian Barberena is just, I think that was probably when he realized, hey, I need to stop doing this, maybe one more go. And, before I keep embarrassing myself like this. And, Robbie's one of the good guys. He always put on fun shows and stuff like that. Like if you guys, I'm sure you do remember the Ben Askren fight and the war with Rory McDonald and all those things. So, all good on Robbie here. He's getting out at the right time, but I think he gets finished in probably the first round. I think he probably goes out pretty violently, to be honest with you. Dan, what are you thinking about this one, man?
Yeah, that's the thing about the sport, man. Retirements don't often end how you want them to. I mean, there's rare occasions like Chris Lytle. He had a beautiful retirement, but for the most part, there's the Frankie Edgars and there's been Marlon Moraes, et cetera, et cetera. I can go on forever about that.
Yeah.
So, it's one of those situations where Nico Price was known for being an opportunistic finisher for the longest time. Like, the hammer fist from bottom against Randy Brown, the upkick against Vic, the comeback against Tim Means, against Morano, against Juban. Like, he's just, he's got a long highlight reel, but what he's recently added is he's got a lot more volume these days. You saw that in the second Luque fight. You saw that in the Phil Rowe fight. And the issue with Lawler is, look, Lawler still fights like the Lawler we love. It's just, he's 41, so it's like a lot slower. I mean, he's still, doing the shoulder rolls. He's still trying to swing to kill. It's just, there's a lot of miles on the engine, and that's just the sport, So yeah, of course you got to pick Nico here, but I mean, would it surprise me if Lawler caught him? I mean, based on how these two fight, anything can happen, Listen, they're gonna swing for the fences, so yeah, but I think more often than not, I gotta favor the guy that's got a little bit left in the tank, and that's Nico Price here. So that'll be my pick.
Andy, what are you thinking, man?
I like Nico Price. I'll save my analysis for one of the categories coming up for my favorite prop and method of victory. So I'll save it for then.
All right, cool, man. So yeah, it looks like a clean sweep on Nico Price. The next one, I mean, the biggest favorite in UFC history, which in my opinion, I think is crazy. So Bo Nickel minus 2,800, I think it is now, 2,500, 2,800. I don't know. It's minus a lot, put it that way. Against newcomer on like 3 days notice, Val Woodburn. The only thing I really know about this guy is that he's 7-0. He said he was supposed to be potentially on the Contender Series, but then he got the call for this. His last two fights went the distance, but he's kind of like a short and stocky guy for 185. There's not a lot to really say here. I mean, Bo probably submits him in, the first round, but even that is probably like minus 200 for a round one submission. So I want absolutely nothing for this fight. I'm going to be rooting for Woodburn to knock him out just because the absolute scenes, but is that going to happen? I would say extremely unlikely. But yeah, let's go Val, but he's probably going to get squeezed the life out of in like 5 seconds. But Dan, how about you, man? Anything, I mean, other than just sit back and watching this one?
Oh, your respect to Val, man. I mean, taking it on a couple days' notice against a guy like Bo Nickel, and Val's kind of different. He's 5'8", 185 pounds. You don't often see, shorter guys in that weight class, which oftentimes, a guy with that stature, they're harder to take down with that lower center of gravity. The issue is the caliber of wrestler of Bo Nickel. It's not going to make a difference here. I think down the line, there's going to be some guys that will get back up from the takedown that will, present problems to Bo Nickel. But right now, even if this was a regional fight, this would be the proper next step for Bo Nickel. And I think he hands this guy his first loss.
Yeah, Andy, is there anything insightful you have here, or just Bo runs him over like a freight train?
No, I have not looked up a whole lot of information on Woodburn. I know he has ties to UFC. He's very well respected with some UFC fighters that train with him. They've come out and said, "Hey, this guy's a dog. He's not going to go down, without a fight. But, he's going to fight hard. Again, he's doing what he should. You take the fight, you go up against Bo Nickel. Anything can happen. Even if you lose and you look good, people will remember you. But no, this is Bo Nickel's fight. Dan, I'm interested in your opinion. You mentioned that you're, grappler.
Yes, sir.
Bo Nickel. When and what type of fighter is going to give him problems? Because it just feels like they're just giving him these guys that he's just going to run through. When does he get a guy that's going to give him a problem? And when you watch Bo Nickel, when you say this is the type of fighter that's going to give him problems, what do you see? Because I've never done MMA, as a participant, never wrestled, never grappled, just as a viewer.
No, I mean, I think you just gotta think about it like this. Like, obviously, these guys are kind of more softball opponents, but the kid's only 4-0. It's not like he's 12-1 or something, and they're giving him a random. As he gets a couple more wins under his belt, then he's going to be tested against seasoned, experienced guys in the UFC, guys that won't just, get tapped out with, by the first submission attempt, guys that can take an ass whooping and survive. Then we see, okay, well, what's Bo Nickel's gas tank like? What happens when someone weathers his storm? So those are the kind of questions that are going to be answered as he kind of climbs up the ranks. But again, I got to put emphasis on the point that he's only 4-0. I know he's the hot shot prospect. I know he's one of the biggest favorites in UFC history, but he's still a 4-0 MMA fighter. So, let's have this conversation when he's 8-0, 10-0. Then I think we'll be, hopefully by then he's been tested.
Yeah, I saw so far he has not even taken a single punch or kick, any strike to the head yet through 4 fights. He's only taken, I think,
But
like
see,
12.
see,
I saw.
I'm glad
So
you brought that up. Sorry to cut you off. I'm really glad you brought that up because with Hamzat, I remember his first like couple UFC fights, he'd only gotten hit like once each
and it was
fight,
like on the
and all this
ground,
crazy
just like
stuff.
one of those
And then
little.
he fought a seasoned, experienced top 10 guy like Gilbert Burns, and he
That
got
was a
pushed to the limit.
fucking
So
war.
there's gonna be that time when when Bo finally fights a guy that is ready to step up to him, because this is the UFC. These are where the top fighters on planet Earth are. And I mean, to be an invincible guy in the sport, like I think we've only seen one John Jones, a guy who's truly never lost a fight, which is like unheard of. And especially considering the amount of fights he's had. I'm not talking about someone who had like a 2-fight stint and then retired. Oh, they never lost a fight. I'm talking about Jones is like had like what 25 to 30 UFC fights. So to do something like that or what Habib did is like unheard of. So yeah, let's just wait for the years to progress and the opponents to get better, and we'll really know how far Bo Nickel can go.
Yeah, it's interesting for me because I mean, I've never been into wrestling or watching wrestling, but I'm actually from Pennsylvania and about 2 hours from State College. So I've known about Bo Nickel for forever, even well before he had any aspirations of getting into MMA. But I've never been a Penn State fan of any sport or whatever. So um, yeah, I would kind of like to see Val shock the world. It would be a little interesting on my Penn State buddies and friends, get a little butthurt about it, but we'll see what happens. I think Bo probably rolls them, but so this is definitely one of the most intriguing fights, in my opinion, on the entire card. Really good matchup. We have Jalen Turner minus 250, minus 260, somewhere in that vicinity, against Dan Hooker plus 220 or thereabout in this fight. So my pick is Jalen Turner. I think he's actually going to probably get a finish here, but I got Jalen Turner at minus 180 about a month or two ago. I can't remember, and it's almost a full dollar. The line has moved in my favor. So, um, yeah, I think Jalen Turner is the side here. Now with the line the way it is, I really can't see Turner winning. I think like he would win if it went to a decision anyway. But what I'm trying to say is, if Turner's looking good in this fight, he's probably not going to win the 3 rounds. Dan Hooker has been in a lot of wars. He's taken a lot of punishment. He's been finished a lot lately. I don't know what he's doing with the blonde hair, and he tattooed like some kind of shields on his shins now. He's having like an early midlife crisis going on. I'm not really sure what that's. I really don't know, but I was one of the only people giving Jalen Turner a shot against Gamrot, and he fought well. I think one judge had it for him. And people worried about his cardio and being so big for the weight class, and could he hold all that muscle on him and stuff like that. And he fought well against Gamrot. He had him in trouble at one point in the fight. The kid's got big power. He's got great jiu-jitsu. And I think this is really Jalen Turner's fight to lose. I can't make a case for Dan Hooker. So it's Jalen Turner all day for me. I think he smashes him, to be honest with you. I don't think this one's even going to be competitive. Andy, how about you, man? What are you thinking for this one?
Yeah, I like Turner. 2 months ago, I thought I had it, guys. I was like, I got a parlay with Bo Nickel over Trayshawn Gore and Jalen Turner over Dan Hooker, and now I'm just sitting here with a ticket on Jalen Turner at minus 180 over Dan Hooker. I like Turner. I'm with you.
That's a great price though, because that's what I got, 2 months ago. So
yeah, we grabbed it right when it came out, and then Trayshawn Gore backs out, absolutely smoking that parlay. Yeah, so Dan Hooker loved what he did against Claudio Puelles. That was
yeah,
I just can't believe nobody else did that before. So it's kind of like, congratulations, Dan Hooker, you did the
what you were
obvious,
supposed to
what you
do.
were supposed to do.
Yeah.
So it was a good win for him. But I mean, my gosh, Arnold Allen, finished. Makachev finished. There's no shame to that. Does get the win in 2021 against Nazareth, but then he gets loses to Chandler. He's absorbed a ton of punishment. Jalen Turner's best fight was his loss. That was where he looked the best. He answered so many questions that we all had was, can he go 3 rounds? Yes. Can he go toe-to-toe with someone like Gamrot? Yes, he can, even though he lost the fight. That was just a monumental fight for his early career right now. Dan Hooker's I don't know what Dan Hooker's path to victory is because I don't think he's going to win a striking battle. I would think he's probably going to have to try and do some kind of wrestling battle, kind of like what Gamrot did, which is kind of control the body, limit what Jalen Turner can do to you, hopefully score some points on the scorecards. In the end, I think this is just Jalen Turner coming to his own, being a real, legitimate championship threat. This is his next step. And Dan Hooker's just on the backside of his career. I like Turner here, and to be honest, I don't think it's that close.
Dan, what are you thinking, my man?
No, Andy, well said. Coming into his own, exactly, because like when Jalen Turner first came into the UFC, like I was not sold on him at all, man. I mean, he had a lot of knockout losses on his regional
first fight
scene.
was Luque on short notice at 170, and he got destroyed.
Uh-huh.
So that's a fight for anyone. But I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying they really threw him to the wolves there.
No, but I'm not talking about Luque. Like I'm saying, like his regional fights, he had gotten knocked out like 4 or 5 times coming into the UFC, right? So I was having questions about his chin, his takedown defense, the Frivola fight. But man, this guy has leveled up. Seems like he can still make the weight fine, which is an important talking point because he's a massive 55er. And like you said, Dan Hooker, he's been taking a lot of damage, whether it was the Maximo Blanco fight, the Edson Barboza fight, the Dustin Poirier fight, the knockout losses you mentioned. So yeah, I'm going Jalen Turner here. His path to victory is, Dan Hooker's path to victory is to knock out Jalen Turner. Jalen Turner's been knocked out like 5 times. Dan Hooker's got to knock him out. If he doesn't, I think he's going to be the one that gets knocked out, or I think Jalen Turner can win, decision too, like whatever. I just think Jalen Turner is winning this fight. Dan Hooker, KO or bust here.
Yeah, and a lot of the things that I said, you guys both said, especially recently. Any guy that has like even the slightest deft touch in his hands or like a good jiu-jitsu game and finishing upside, basically, I guess what I'm trying to say, Dan Hooker's not really surviving those fights. He's getting finished in all of them. And he is only 33, I believe, but he's starting to fight like an old 33-year-old. Like Dan detailed, he's been in a lot of smash mouth wars. And I think this is Jalen Turner all day inside the distance, and I don't think it's going to really even be competitive whatsoever. So I think everyone's in agreement. Turner inside the distance and kind of does it with some style points. So the next one, and this is actually my favorite fight of the entire card. We have Dricus du Plessis plus 300 or thereabout. Robert Whittaker, the favorite, minus 380, minus 400 in that vicinity. I'm really excited for this one. I'll let you guys go first with this one. Andy, I know we've talked about this one since it got announced. You know where I'm going with this one, but I'd like to hear if you kind of came to a decision on it.
Yeah, I have Whittaker winning this fight. I think du Plessis got a chance to win round 1. A chance. After that, it's Whittaker all day. I know he had the nose surgery. It's the surgery I've had. I've had nose, I've had throat surgeries, I have asthma, I've had breathing problems since I was born. Getting your nose fixed for breathing doesn't help your cardio. It just makes it easier to breathe in your day-to-day life and when you're doing exercise, but it doesn't help the lactic acid that builds up. It doesn't help when du Plessis swings like a windmill and tires himself out in the first round.
Can I say this? Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
Like, okay, he got his nose fixed. Great. Robert Whittaker punches him with the first punch and breaks it again. Okay, now what?
Well, I know this is a narrative, Rudy. I know you're going to be on this. It doesn't affect your cardio. I mean, I'm not a professional athlete by any stretch, but I played sports my entire life. I've had the nose surgery. It helps me breathe, but it's not made me like last longer in sporting events or anything. It just makes life a little bit easier. I'm glad he did it. I'm sure he's going to be a little bit more effective, but I don't trust his fight IQ. Um, I trust that he's been able to get it done against some of the guys that he has fought, but getting the win against Derek Brunson, who is now the most called out fighter, and like everyone wants to fight. Like when Duplessis got on the mic after beating Derek Brunson, was like, "I just beat a top 5 guy," and it was like, okay, Driscoll. So here's the conspiracy theory. Why this could work out very well for you, Rudy. Why your plus 390 ticket. Is there going to be another more marketable, bigger fight than if Driscus wins, and then we get Izzy versus Duplessis in Africa for a title shot? That's going to be the biggest card UFC has ever done. It's got everything you would ever want. It's got a continent involved, countries involved. It's got 2 sides where you're either one or the other. It's got 2 guys that are great on the mic. I just don't see inside the octagon how Duplessis manages his cardio against Whitaker, who is so great on the feet, knows how to wear his opponents down, fight IQ through the roof. I just think Duplessis leaves himself too wide open. I think he goes way too hard too early, but I think he's going to have to go pretty hard in the first round because if he doesn't, Whitaker's just going to piece him up. And Daniel, to your point, yeah, Whitaker is going to pop him really, really hard, harder than he's ever been hit before in a UFC fight. He just hasn't fought anybody that's going to hit like Whitaker does. Was Whitaker's 2 losses are to Izzy? This guy's a title contender. I think Duplessis is way too sloppy. I don't see it for him in this one.
Before we move on to you, Dan, about this fight, what do you think just pure on the price, not who's going to win the fight? Whitaker minus 400, deserving or wide?
Accurate. So, I mean, there's no value on Whitaker.
Okay. All right. So what do you think in the X's and O's department? Who you got? I'm assuming you're going with Whitaker here, but you could tell us why.
Yeah, I don't give a shit about the nose thing, bro. Like, I mean, as soon as tell me this. Does Duplessis get hit a lot or not?
His striking defense is actually pretty good.
Does he get hit every single UFC fight or not?
Well, he gets hit, yeah.
Okay. So when Whitaker breaks his nose, like, who gives a shit if he got a surgery? Like, his nose will be broken again. So that narrative doesn't mean anything to me. The narrative I'd run with if you're picking Duplessis is Robert Whitaker fights with his hands down. He's been knocked out before. He's been dropped in several fights, and he's been wobbled in other fights. Darren Till dropped him with an elbow. Jared Cannonier had him wobbling at the end of round 3. Izzy dropped him in both fights. Those are the narratives I'd run with. Fuck the nose narrative. But besides that, because I do think Dricus has a puncher's chance. I mean, Dricus has that death touch. Dricus is built like a fucking brick shit house. He's a Greek god. The guy's strong as hell. He's got that dog in him. He's got a lot of heart, but I think he's a little bit too sloppy for Robert Whitaker. I think that Robert Whitaker is a consummate professional. I think he represents excellence. I mean, he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. His wrestling is second to none. I mean, you saw those scrambles with Yoel Romero in terms of the wrestling. You saw what he did against Jacare in his prime, mind you. And then that's the grappling side of things. Oh, and now let's talk about the best part of his game, the striking. This guy has a nasty left hook. His high kick, he disguises it so well. He's got great footwork. He's a supreme athlete. So I don't see, like, if they have like a 3-round fight where it's about who the more technical, who the better guy is here, I don't see any way Dricus can win that fight. I would be shocked if Dricus won a decision. The way Dricus has to win here is to clip someone that's been clipped before. Dricus is good at clipping people. So, yes, Dricus has a puncher's chance. And to your point, Andy, dude, the build-up to Adesanya versus Duplessis would literally be the most entertaining build-up I've seen in years, because there'd be so much shit talk, which I love shit talk personally. There'd be a lot of controversy. There'd be a lot of, dissension between both sides. I just love all that. The fight itself wouldn't be competitive at all, but whatever, who cares? it's the buildup. You know, I'd be excited to watch that. But listen, they booked this fight, so I got to go Whitaker. But you know, there is a puncher's chance for Drickus, but that's it in my opinion.
So I valid points. I honestly I'm dead ass serious when I say this. I think Drickus is gonna knock him out cold. I'm being completely serious.
That's
Totally
the way he can win.
That's his path.
So here's
Yeah,
the thing. So
absolutely.
here's the thing that a lot of people are missing in this fight. Yes, Whitaker is way better technically. No one has ever said that Drickus is like this, you know, master artist with his striking combinations and flowing and looking real pretty and dancing around. And no, the way you have to beat Robert Whitaker is you have to turn this into an ugly dogfight car crash. And that's what Drickus does. He comes forward and he swings sledgehammers at you. And every single guy, yes, they are not Whitaker, that he has fought, other than Brad Tavares. But Brad Tavares, I have no idea how he was still standing because he looked like he was in a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie by the end of that fight. I mean, he has found the chin of. And Robert Whitaker does fight with his hands down. In the fights that he has lost, to Dan's point, in the UFC, Adesanya knocked him out in the second round. Adesanya had him dropped and in trouble in the second fight. And Drickus definitely is the hardest hitter he has ever fought. I don't even think it's particularly close. I guess you could make a case for Yoel, but Yoel, just the volume is not there.
Maybe?
Nah, I don't know, man. I think Drickus hits like ridiculously hard. I mean, you see when he hits these guys, I mean, it looks like their head is seriously going to fly off their neck. It's frightening, man.
But granted, these guys are Trevin Giles, Marcus Perez.
Sure. But still, I mean, at some point in this fight, Whitaker's going to get hit. I'm almost positive because I think the way Whitaker wins this fight is completely different. Whitaker's going to make Drickus look silly and probably win a 3-round decision. And it probably won't be that close. If Drickus wins, I give him the first, second round, and he, starches him or maybe latches up a guillotine or something like that because he does have a wicked guillotine. But I think at this price, this is just kind of wild, and it's just because Drickus has been getting a lot of hate because he's so sloppy and unorthodox, and he's had moments where he looks super gassed in the fights and stuff like that. But a guy with way, way higher finishing upside who hits way harder. Whitaker has not finished a fight in 6 years. So unless Drickus just totally poops himself and like his cardio betrays him, I think he's going to be, at least live for a finish here. So I think if you're giving me Drickus at plus 300, I'm riding with Drickus here. I think he finds a way to make this one ugly, a dogfight. He closes the distance and just I see it. He walks Whitaker down as he often does to guys, and Whitaker has a hard time getting out of there alive. So I'm going with Drickus on that one. So the first title match of the night, we have Brandon Moreno, Alexander Pantoja, part 3. Pantoja, the plus 160, plus 170 dog, is 2-0. Officially 1-0, but 2-0 if you want to count the other submission victory that he had. There's a lot of storylines to this fight. Pantoja was kind of the reason that Moreno got cut the first time from the UFC. So now they do it over for the third time for a title match. Dan, I do know who you're going with this one, and I agree. So you could tell the people why you're supporting who you're supporting in this one.
Yeah, I bet on Pantoja here at plus 170. I mean, I don't really know what's going to happen in this fight. I just know that if you give me plus 170 odds on Pantoja versus any 125-pound man on planet Earth, I'm going to bet him there. That's just the bottom line, man. I don't really care that he's 2-0 against him. That was a long ass time ago, man. Moreno's risen to be a champion since then. So it's not the same Moreno, not the same Pantoja either. So I just expect this guy to give me max effort and win, lose, or draw. I mean, I know that Pantoja is going to fight for my money. So at plus 170, I got to take him versus any flyweight on planet Earth, and may the best man win.
Yeah, I think you make a lot of good points, man. I like Pantoja in this fight too. I think, obviously people say Moreno's leveled up, but I think Pantoja has too in a lot of regards. And when you're backing on an underdog, just kind of like my personal process, my personal opinion, you kind of want a guy that's a little crazy. You kind of want a guy that's a berserker in there. And that's kind of what I think a lot about Pantoja. I mean, his nickname perfectly suits him, the Cannibal. I mean, this guy wants to get you down and squeeze your head off until you tap. Um, and like Dan said, he's going to fight for your money at plus 170. The guy's violent. He goes forward. He goes forward. And I think there's a real chance he could get Moreno out of there. So at plus 170, like Dan said, against anyone in the flyweight division, I think Pantoja is a good bet. And at that point, we'll just see what happens. But on the outright winner, I'm picking Pantoja. And as far as the bet, I'm picking Pantoja as well. Andy, how about you?
Well, Daniel laid out the perfect reason that 1% of bettors make a lot of money and 99% lose it is Daniel's playing the number. And the number is ridiculous. Pantoja at that price, that's it's pure insanity. We could go through the X's and O's of the fights. I can make a case for Moreno. I can make a case for Pantoja, but I end up coming back to the same thing, which I think anybody could win. So the only way to bet this is to be on the plus money. I will say, I do think if the fight goes longer and longer, I think Moreno will end up kind of winning more on the scorecards because if Pantoja is going to win, I think he does it early. Be honest. I mean, what he did to Alex Perez, where he about almost ripped Alex Perez's head straight off. I mean, that wasn't even like a choke. It was just they just like face crank. It was like that was almost a decapitation. What he did to that guy,
the Cannibal, baby.
Yeah, absolutely. So if Moreno's going to win this, I think it's by decision. I think what he ends up doing is working those long legs to keep the distance with his leg kicks, with his body kicks. I think this is a live betting opportunity for me. I'm not involved. I have other bets involved with with other fights. I'm not involved in this one, but as a live better, Rudy, I'm watching all of these. I want to see what happens in that first round because if Moreno can keep the distance, if he can do some damage to the legs, if he can do some damage to the body and just slow down Pantoja a little bit, I think he starts to pull away as the fight goes on. That being said, I'm not going to go into this fight betting against Pantoja. Daniel laid it out right. The price is ridiculous. You're playing the best of the number. Pre-fight, that's the only way to go.
Yeah, really have no disagreements with either of you guys. And if you want to take Andy's live bet strategy, I think personally, if we see the championship rounds, that's where Moreno could start pulling away and just kind of popping out shots, popping out kicks and stuff like that. And maybe, get ahead on the scorecards. And I think Pantoja's probably got like the first 3 rounds to work. So I wouldn't mind Pantoja inside the distance. I think that's another way you could look if you're not happy enough with the plus 170. But like the guys kind of detailed, I think that's a fantastic number on a guy. Whether you want to say it means a little, it means a lot, it means nothing. Plus 170 against a guy you already have at the very least, the mental advantage over. I think is crazy. So I think we're all in agreement on dog or leave it alone there. So the last fight of the night, we have Alexander the GOAT Volkanovski taking on Yair Rodriguez. Volk about minus 400, Yair plus 310. Dan, we'll start out with you, man. Is there anything that you're looking at as far as this fight goes, brother?
I mean, man, I'm just so excited to watch this fight. I think this could literally be one of the best featherweight fights in UFC history, man. I mean, obviously, we know Volk's the pound for pound great right now, and we know how incredible he is. I mean, we can look at the wins, but it's like, when was the last time you saw a 5'6" guy out there jabbing like a 6-foot guy like Max Holloway? Like, he's like a short guy that fights like a tall guy, but then like he can also take down Islam Makhachev. It's like, bro,
and drop him and beat the shit out of him in the 5th round.
Hit my cap, man. And like, it's his feinting game that is really one of the best I've ever seen. Meaning, like, he confuses his opponents. He has them guessing the entire time. They have no idea what's coming at them. And physicality wise, I mean, the guy is built, unlike anything you've ever seen, man. The guy's a brick, impossible to choke. It's just, Here's the thing, man. Yair Rodriguez can do things that other guys can't do, man. I mean, throughout his career, we've seen him do all kinds of martial arts techniques that other guys simply can't do, let alone at the highest level. He's finishing fights with elbows we've never seen against top 5 guys. Like, he's just ridiculous, man. Even his Max Holloway fight, he won 2 rounds unanimously. He's the real deal, man. So y'all know, before Volkanovski's UFC career, the only way Volkanovski has been finished in his career was via head kick. This guy Yair has some of the nastiest kicks in the featherweight division, man. So I think he does have a path, especially at range. It's just Yair's style takes a lot of energy, and the guy's in shape. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he's Mexican. He's training in that like 10,000 feet
Aztec
elevation.
Temple or
So
whatever it is. Yeah.
he's gonna be in shape, bro. It's just that style of throwing all those ridiculous kicks. It's gonna take a lot of energy. So I think Yair kind of needs to get Volk out of there, kind of on the earlier side. Whether it's, he doesn't discriminate in terms of kicking the leg, the body, the head, all that, the flying knees, whatever the case may be, the spins. I just think that he kind of needs to get Volk out of there first 2.5 rounds. For Volk, I think boxing range on the feet is great for him. I think he's got way better boxing for MMA than Yair. But where I really think Volk has a great path is if he can get on top of Yair. Volk is like a boulder on top of guys. It's very hard to get him off of you. And then once he starts posturing up and getting off on that ground and pound, I mean, I've seen high level black belts like Ortega, like barely surviving with
Taking a beating, yeah.
with Volkanovski on the mat, man. So yeah, I got to go with Volk, but I'm not going to be the one to discredit or disrespect Yair. And, sometimes it's a matter of destiny. Like when Michael Bisping fought for the title against Luke Rockhold. Like there's been many instances where just feel good moments where guys that have been paying their dues for so long finally like won't be denied on that one night. So if that's the case for Yair, I mean, it'll be a beautiful moment, man. The guy's paid his dues. You can't take anything away from him. I just think he's fighting in Volkanovski's era, so I'm gonna go with the champion still.
Andy, what are you thinking for this one?
I think Yair Rodriguez is fool's gold. I don't buy into his style. I don't buy into his style at all. I mean, listen. All right, Frankie Edgar, 2017 loses doctor stoppage. 2018 beats Chan Sung Jung with a 1 second left on the clock. Hail Mary elbow. But the substance of the fight is he was down on the scorecards. He was losing. That if that elbow comes 2 seconds later, he loses, and we don't see it. He beats Jeremy Stephens. Jeremy Stephens is 1-7 in his last 8 fights. Okay, he couldn't even finish Jeremy Stephens. You know who did? Schulte in PFL. So forgive me if I'm not that impressed with that win. Max Holloway loses. Ortega shoulder injury. Ortega gets a shoulder injury. I almost want to bet on this guy because my God, it just keeps falling in place for him. Josh Emmett, I don't know, that win doesn't maybe look as impressive now, seeing as how Emmett just got absolutely worked over. So Emmett's on the on the downside of his career. I think Emmett probably has 1 or 2 more fights left, if that. But this is Volk's world. Volk loves taking down people like Yair Rodriguez. I thought Daniel did a great job laying out his fight IQ, his camp, his planning, his preparation. I mean, the physical attributes are one thing, but it's just the determination and the IQ when the fight happens. Volk is not going to let Yair Rodriguez get those crazy spinning shots out of the way. I think Volk closes a distance and he takes Rodriguez into deep, deep waters. And I think it actually starts pretty early. I don't think Volk is going to need that much time to get a good read on where the holes in Rodriguez's game is. I think Volk is going to be able to push him up against the fence. I think he's probably going to be able to work some takedowns. And I think at some point Rodriguez is going to realize this is not Jeremy Stephens. This is not a 30-whatever-year-old Josh Emmett. This is not Brian Ortega who gets hurt at the end of the round. This is more of a Max Holloway situation where, I lost. I listen. Yair Rodriguez is fun to watch. He's got an exciting style. That elbow that we saw of him, That was in 2018. Could we beat to death another highlight knockout more than this one? This 5 years ago. I'm not a believer in Rodriguez. I think this is Volk's world all day. I don't even think Volk is going to finish him. I think Volk kind of enjoys something like this where he can just pound on a guy for 5 rounds. I think it's Volk. Prop wise, I would take Volk by decision because I like I said, Rodriguez is really tough. He's not a guy that you're going to get out of there. But I think Volk just controls the fight from start to finish.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with both you guys. I mean, there is not a shot. Well, I guess more so towards Andy. I mean, respect to Yair. He's an athletic freak, especially with his kicking game and some of his highlight reel strikes and just the unorthodox way he goes about things. But against a guy like Volk, who has some of the highest IQ in the UFC, if not the highest, I mean, I think he's probably one of the last people that you're going to pull a Hail Mary off. And that's kind of the only way I see Yair winning this one. I actually think Volk gets him out of there. I think it's a ground and pound, and it's in the championship rounds. I know on FanDuel and some other books, you get like 4 or 5 decision for Volk. I think that might be the way that I get involved. Or even if you want to parlay Volk with someone else you like, I really don't see much of a way that Volk could really lose this fight. This dude is just way too good. And even though he lost, I'm really happy that like so many people got to see how well he fought Islam and how badly he beat him up in the 5th round. I mean, this dude is built like a bowling ball. And that's kind of what I think this fight's going to be like. I mean, I see him, Yair throwing his best stuff, not really working. Volk just starts chipping away, landing the big shots, gets him on the ground, and just maybe whether for how hurt he is or if he's exhausted or if the ref's just seen enough, sort of like the Korean Zombie. I know that was like standing or whatever, but I could see Volk really putting it on this guy late, and it would not surprise me whatsoever if Volk gets him out of there with some ground strikes or maybe another standing, maybe by the fence, something like that. But yeah, I think Volk 4 or 5 decision, depending on what the price is. I think that's probably the way I'm going to do it, and maybe a little tiny sprinkle on his knockout prop is the way to go for this one. So we will be wrapping up pretty soon here, guys. I asked the guys a couple questions for the end of the show. We'll just kind of go round table real quick. We'll get the guys out of here. So Andy, favorite fight, your upset pick, parlay buster, your favorite prop method of victory bet, and your best overall bet of the card regarding anything.
Is Daniel going to be mad at me if I take the Yasmin Wari and Denise Gomes as my favorite fight?
Go ahead.
All right. This is my favorite fight. I really want to see. Yes, I want to see 2 women on this card put on an absolute show. I think they're going to. And like I said, I think the casual viewer is going to look at this and be like, oh, my God, I didn't know that this was possible in a women's division. So it's my favorite fight to watch because I think both women are live for a knockout. And I almost hope it doesn't get finished because I want to see 3 rounds with them. So that's going to be my favorite fight. My upset pick, my parlay buster, I'm going back to Terrence Mitchell. I just worry about Cameron not being as strong. He's going to get tripped up at some point. We've seen over the course of the last 6 months, these short notice replacement fighters are having success. Now, the league that Terrence Mitchell comes from is known for some pretty shady padding of their records and everything. But I get a 22-year-old that I just don't think has grown into the man body. And Terrence Mitchell is 33 years old. He's very strong. He's 15-2. I think he's going to cause a lot of problems with his length and his reach. So that's my parlay buster on this card. My favorite prop is going to be Nico Price. He's going to win inside the distance. Getting finished by Barberena is fine. Going toe-to-toe, I get it. Nico Price has other things that Brian Barberena just doesn't have that he's going to unleash on Robbie Lawler. And the number one thing is leg kicks. Nico Price is going to chew up legs from Lawler. And Lawler's never been great at protecting his head from strikes. But now when he's in his 40s, it just gets worse and worse. Here's the other thing. Nico Price needs to win. This is not a guy that's just gonna lay down. I mean, this
Oh
is a
yeah,
guy,
if he loses this, I think he's gonna get cut.
yeah, he's 1-3. Now he's lost to
One,
Phil Rowe and
1-4,
Michelle
1-3, and
Pereira,
one,
and
something like
yeah,
that. Yeah.
Vicente Luque. So it's like, okay, no shame in those losses, but when your
Mhm.
only win is to Alex Oliveira, you have got to come with the Thunder. So, like, if, I know the sentimental pick might be Robbie Lawler. Shout outs for all the memories, but Nico Price is going, hey, listen, I need to win this. I can get
Mhm.
cut after this. So you have extreme motivation from Nico Price. He's got the takedown game that Robbie Lawler just absolutely does not have. I don't even know if he needs to use it, but he's going to work the leg kicks. He's going to win the stand-up battle, especially if he gets into round 2. So Nico Price inside the distance. I'm not going to take knockout because I stand by. I just want to take the inside the distance. And then, oh my gosh, my best bet on the card. Boy, are we allowed to do parlays on,
Yeah,
on,
sure,
on
man.
on this card? Okay, well, I'm going to go with I'll go chalky and take Jack Madalena inside the distance. I will take Nico Price inside the distance, and then I will parlay that one with. I'm sorry, Rudy. I'm going with Robert Whitaker. I just don't believe. I don't believe in
Okay.
Duplessis
Okay, all good.
in the slightest. I think his style is way too sloppy. I think that's going to get us pretty close to even money. It'll be less than minus 150. So give me inside the distance from Adelaide. Give me inside the distance from Price. I'll put that with Whitaker just on the money line. That's my favorite bet.
All right, man. Um, Dan, how about you, man? To recap, favorite fight, any potential parlay busters, your favorite prop bet, and your just overall best bet of the card, man.
Favorite fight or fight to watch? Let's go Turner versus Hooker. I mean, for Turner, this is a massive opportunity, man. I mean, he's got a lot of momentum coming off a loss against Gamrot, where he looked really good, but good things happen when guys beat Dan Hooker. Lots of big names that beat Dan Hooker, and he beats Dan Hooker. You're looking at Jalen Turner in a fight night main event, a pay-per-view co-main event. So that's my favorite fight. And if Hooker wins, I mean, shit, you're right back in the mix, kid. Uh, Upset pick Parlay Buster. Upset pick Pantoja. So Parlay Buster Moreno. Favorite prop. I didn't bet any props. Best bet. I only bet on Crute and I bet on Pantoja. So let's see what happens.
All right, man. My favorite fight is Drickus and Whitaker. I know you guys, we have vastly varying opinions on that fight, but whether Whitaker dies or he just looks silly, I mean, whether Drickus dies or looks silly, and it just looks like, a slap fest, he's going to bring it. He's going to be chasing Whitaker, swinging bombs. So, and also with the implications like Daniel touched on earlier with if he does find that big shot, or if he does somehow get Whitaker's neck in like one of his guillotines, because his guillotines are nasty. Um, the promo for him and Izzy and UFC Africa and all the other stuff that would ensue from that, just the absolute scene. So for tons of reasons, that's my favorite fight on the card. Upset pick parlay buster, Robert Whitaker. I'm telling you, these fights on the main card tend to trip people up in these big pay-per-views. And I can't make a case for Yair. Like I said, Bo Nickel, I don't even really count that as being a fight. You could just call that what it is. And you guys know how I feel about Dan Hooker and Jalen Turner. So that leaves me kind of with Robert Whitaker. So don't be surprised if Drickus pulls this one off. I'm going to be pretty hyped. We're breaking out the champagne bottles. So my favorite prop method of victory, we'll go with, I guess we'll go Jalen Turner inside the distance, and that'll also be my best bet of the card. So I think because I can't give out the minus 180 that I had, me and Andy also have from a month or two ago, because he's now like minus 260 range. I'll go with Turner inside the distance as my favorite play of the card. So with that, guys, I appreciate having Andy, Dan on. If you want to tell the guys, everyone tuning in, where they could find you, the floor is yours. So Dan, it was great to have you on, man. Looking forward to do it again. Tell the people what you got going on.
Yeah, no, firstly, thank you for having me. Thank you to everyone that listens to this. Andy, it was nice to meet you. Look to stay in touch with both of y'all. Everyone can follow me on Twitter at Best Fight Picks. And then my podcast, Half the Battle, is available everywhere podcasts are found. Just type in Half the Battle. And then my YouTube channel, also Half the Battle. That's where you can find all my content. So check it out. Thank you again for having me, and good luck this weekend.
Yeah, buddy. Great to have you on. Andy, this is probably about your 4th or 5th time being on now to discuss different things. So if you want to remind the people, floor is yours, man.
Yeah, all my picks can be found at wagertalk.com. Follow us on Twitter at Bump Sports. We do tons of sports. Me and my team, it's Wimbledon right now. We're crushing tennis like we always do. We have lacrosse plays. We have a guy who handicaps lacrosse as part of our team. And of course, we're doing MLB. I specialize in golf and Formula One and UFC. So we have tons of sports that we do. We're not very high volume, just a couple plays each week for each sport. But we're doing really well. We're up 71 units this year in all sports so far. So we're on pace for a fantastic year. Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate it. So, and Rudy, awesome job, man. Shout out to you. You put on a really good show. It's very informative. It's very concise. You get to the point, and there's a lot of people that could take some notes from you in this business.
All right. Thank you, man. That really means a lot coming from someone in your position. And just look to try and meet up with as many people as possible and talking about something that I love as much as the UFC. And, when we have a good day at the office, like I think we should be doing here. I hope we helped everyone navigate through a lot of the chalk and a lot of these late last minute replacements and all the chaotic minus 1,000s, minus 2,000s we got going on here. So my only advice before we sign off here is definitely just don't take one parlay with all these guys because someone's going to fuck it up. So, but with that, guys, Rudy, Dan, Andy, everyone tuning in, everyone that's going to tune in for this show, we appreciate your time. And with that, guys, enjoy UFC 290 on Saturday, and hopefully we could all make some money. So take care, everyone. And again, thanks for watching. Andy, Dan, thank you for coming on, guys. Take care, everyone. See you soon.